Hello there, and welcome to episode 5 of Colonization Project. You just saw me unlocking the final node of the tech tree, not the entire tech tree, that tier of the tech tree, and we are now launching our test plane, which is carrying a payload on the side, which you can see right now, and it's to test a rocket engine at a certain altitude, and I thought this would be a perfect job for our plane. So just put it off to the side and then detach it like a missile. I can confirm it's definitely not a guided missile. It looks like one, but it's not. It's just to test this part. It's sort of our first air launch, but it's not really doing much productive. I mean, it's sort of doing something productive. It's fulfilling that contract, but once again, that contract it's not really essential to the space program. It probably only gave us like 5,000 funds, which is enough for like a single rocket engine. So yeah, not a lot of funds, but I thought it would be a fun mission anyway. And it would be nice to test the plane. Once again, it's piloted by our brave pilot, Valentina Kerman. But we can once again land with a bit of a rocky landing, but another happy one nonetheless. But now we return to the Mun rover, which has a contract to explore the Mun. It has a contract to go to a couple different biomes here and there, and collect seismic impact data, to be exact, from those biomes. And you may notice that the rover is sort of sinking under the terrain and going above the terrain. I'm pretty sure that this is a bug with parallax, which is what's causing those wonderful ground textures. Quick saving, quick loading seemed to fix it, but it's just a visual glitch. It didn't really have any effect on the actual craft, but that's okay though. It's just a purely visual glitch. It's a strange one, but it's not really destroying the whole mission. I named this the Pathfinder rover. I don't know if I actually named that in the game, but it is called Pathfinder because I really couldn't think of a better name. And I think that's what I called the first rover in my last series, which it didn't go very far. It went a couple of kilometers and then promptly exploded once I accidentally drove it off a cliff. It was probably bad that it had an RTG on it, but that was in the last series. We don't have that problem here because it's a solar panel. We don't have RTGs yet. RTGs, if you don't know, they have a radioactive isotope, and then they just harvest the heat from it. It's pretty simple, but also probably not the greatest if it explodes. But yeah, we don't have that kind of technology yet. We are limited to these puny solar panels. Actually, they're not very puny. They're quite powerful. You can like supply a space station for a good amount of time. But we do have we have solar panels and we have fuel cells. That's really all the things that we have. We don't have any fusion reactors or RTGs or any of the fancy tech that we'll be using in future episodes. But this right here is where the parallax terrain glitch sort of starts to, our camera is now actually clipping inside the terrain, and we actually lose one of the solar panels, which isn't good. So I just quick saved, quick loaded, and it seemed to temporarily fix that. But our next target is actually at the bottom of a cliff, which isn't the greatest place to put this. It isn't the greatest place to put that, but I eventually did remove parallax temporarily, because I do want those amazing ground textures. But I do temporarily remove it because I sort of wanted to see where I was going. And yeah, we're like driving down a 40-degree incline. I don't think this rover was meant to do that, but we do eventually get that contract fulfilled, but we actually have to sort of have the rover slide down the cliff face because the brakes aren't actually strong enough to keep it on the ground. Well, I mean, it is on the ground. The brakes aren't strong enough to keep it from sliding down the hill. So we just try and find a flatter bit of terrain, which we eventually do. And unlock specialized construction, which gives us, I think, docking ports, which is good. I actually am not sure what that why I need. I'm not sure why I needed that tech node, but I guess there was something important. Oh yeah, we need it for the Hitchhiker storage module, which we will be needing momentarily. But right now, that is not what we're doing. We are launching a scan satellite to Minmus. It's sort of like the Mon Relay satellite we launched in the last episode, but it has a different type. It has a different type of scanner, and that's about it. Not much different. It's sort of like a universal satellite bus. Just like that rectangular probe core scaled up with a relay antenna, scan satellite, couple solar panels, batteries, reaction wheels, all that stuff. And it actually works out quite well, which is why I'm using it. I wouldn't be using it if it didn't work out quite well. You may also notice that this episode is a bit long. It's 34 minutes long, which is actually the longest. This is the longest video I've ever made, which is going to be fun because 34 minutes of recording 34 minutes of recording a bit voiceover straight. And I actually just finished recording episode 4 because I had a bit of free time and I had a bit of extra footage for episode 5, so I thought I might edit that. And I found myself in this place recording episode 4 recording episode 5 right after episode 4 is done. Which means that episode 4 and episode 5 should be released about a day apart, hopefully. Although, you guys can tell me if it worked, because I do not know yet. I do not have, I can't really do that. That would involve some time travel, which I don't think is possible yet. But yeah, they should hopefully be coming out a day after each other, but I don't know yet because once again that would require time travel, which is probably impossible for the time being, and probably impossible forever, because if it was possible, then quite possibly we would have time travelers everywhere. Although time travel is confusing. Let's get on to the next launch. This launch will be the start of our Minmus mission. We are performing it in 3 parts, just like the Mon mission, although this time we have a bit more reserve fuel, because we don't want this mission ending up like the last one, where we have barely enough fuel to complete the mission. This is also launching on a new booster. I called this the Sarnus because that's just what I felt like calling it. And it's actually the Falcon 9, the first variant, The one that carried the first Dragons up to orbit. Dragon being the spacecraft. I don't think a rocket has ever carried. Actually, wait, no. No, that was a dinosaur. I was thinking that the Demo 2 mission carried a dinosaur. Not a dinosaur, a dragon up to space. It did carry a dragon up to space, but not like a real dragon. I thought the 0G indicator was a dragon, but no, it was a dinosaur. Like a toy dinosaur, not a real dinosaur. But I should probably talk about this. Yeah, I forgot to check my staging, and yeah, once the fairing is deployed, the payload deployed, and yeah, the payload, which was the habitation and fuel module, ends up just going kaput into the surface. But that's not stopping us from launching. That's not stopping us from launching another rocket. So that's what we're doing with checked staging this time. Remember to check your staging, because you don't want that happening. So yeah, the rocket that the rocket parts that I'm using right now are the Falcon 9 Block 1s, which carried the first cargo Dragons up into space. I don't think I need to elaborate if the cargo dragon is a real dragon or not, but it is not a real dragon. It's just what the spacecraft is called. Yeah, it's sort of based off this, but it has a payload fairing, unlike the real Falcon 9 Block 1, which actually allows us to carry payloads up into orbit. That's not the Dragon capsule, because anywhere like the Falcon 9 Block 1 only had a couple launches, most of which were a Dragon cargo spacecraft. But what we're doing here is launching the crew shuttle. It's not really a space shuttle, because it's a Gemini capsule. I don't think they have very much in common with each other than the fact that the real-life Gemini capsule used fuel cells, and the space shuttle used fuel cells. That's about all they had in common. And they carried crew. Yeah, that's about it. But this craft is shuttling the crew, which is Valentina Kerman and I forget Tomball Kerman. Tomball Kerman. That's what I'm gonna call him. It's carrying these two up to the fuel module to dock with it. You may notice that I left the second stage on the fuel module because that's extra fuel. We might want it for the main spacecraft, and that was actually good because we now have a lot of reserve fuel. Because once again, we don't want this ending up like the other mission, because that would be bad. Just taking a drink of water there because your throat sort of gets kind of dry when you record two post commentaries, which are 20 to 30 minutes long back to back. But we have plotted our maneuvers to get to the fuel module. It's about a day before they get to the space station, which isn't the slowest docking procedure, but it's also not the fastest, because in real life the Soyuz docked to the International Space Station in about 3 hours, I think. I could be wrong, but I think it docked in 3 hours, which is very fast considering how real life things tend to go a bit slower than Kerbal Space Program, because I don't think NASA launched crewed missions to the moon in 4 years after they were first they launched their first rocket. Actually, I'm not sure how far we are along in the space program. I think we're about 2 years along. Mostly because we haven't really had anything to wait for. We've mostly just been launching missions as and when we can. But playing with Kerbal construction time does pass quite a bit. I always actually forget how much delta V you need to orbit Kerbin. I always think it's 3,000 meters per second. I always pack more than enough fuel. Yeah, because it's always good to overbuild your rockets rather than underbuild your rockets. Because if you underbuild your rockets, then you're not going to have enough fuel. It's going to end up probably crashing into the surface. If that doesn't happen, you're going to have a couple stranded Kerbals in orbit. But if you overbuild it, you're just going to have a bit of extra fuel. Which, yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world if you have reserve fuel. It's just an extra biome hop that you can use. Or it could be like a little safety net, but I think that a biome hop is a bit cooler than having 1,000 meters per second when you return to Kerbin. Although, actually, I'm not sure where I'm going with that. We are now launching the lander, which will land on the surface, in case you couldn't guess from the title of the lander. We are launching during the night because I wanted to launch this as soon as possible so our Kerbals don't go homesick. I don't think they have any risk of going homesick because I think they have like 300 days worth of habitation time on that. So they can stay in space for 300 days as long as they have adequate foods, adequate supplies. But that is the main limiting factor. We don't supplies. Minmus is actually far enough out so that if you spend any longer than you need to, your Kerbals will actually run out of life support. That's obviously with USI life support because stock doesn't have life support. So we actually have to pack that hitchhiker storage unit and also the couple of supplies just to keep the Kerbals happy and also not dying from starvation. Because I think that would be a bit worse than if they were homesick. But we don't have any of those problems here because I planned for that. And we can now dock the lander to the main spacecraft. Now, the reason why I didn't really learn from the last mission and say, oh, this orbital construction thing is pretty bad, because it actually isn't. The main problem was that we didn't have enough fuel, and that's not too bad. I was actually planning on getting one of our Kerbals out to attach some struts to get the spacecraft in place, but as it turns out, only engineers can do that, which makes sense. But I didn't realize that, so we packed a bit of extra struts that we can't use, which isn't the best thing in the world because it's just extra dry mass that we don't need. But fuel margins are not that tight on this mission because we have a lot of fuel. Minmus doesn't take nearly as much fuel to land on and orbit as the Mun does. It does take a bit more fuel to get out there, but everything else just makes up for it. it takes like a 200 meters per second to land. The gravity is really low, and Minmus is just, I think it's a bit better than Mun, in my opinion. Because of those reasons that I just said. The main reason why this episode is actually so long is because I was planning on having it being a normal length episode, but as it turns out, I wanted to it was too short without the Minmus landing and return, and it was too long without it. And I thought, hey, I have a bit of extra footage, so I'm just gonna make a longer than usual episode, and have a longer than usual episode, because I think that's pretty nice. You get more video per video, which is good. If once again, not much to talk about. We're just heading out to Minmus to land, because that is the goal of this mission. We're not performing any sort of orbital, just an orbit mission that, like Apollo 10, I think it was Apollo 10 that orbited the moon and tested the lunar descent module. I think that was that mission. I could be wrong, but we're not doing that. We didn't even do that for the Mun mission, although we did orbit the Mun before we landed, like send a separate mission. But we have gotten into orbit. We can, do some science from low Minmus orbit. We actually brought a couple of science equipment. I forget what they're called. They're the little science EVA kits. So we can actually do a bit of extra science from the EVA science kits. Yeah, not much to talk about, although we are getting both of the Kerbals out. We are getting all of the Kerbals into the lander, because this lander can actually carry all of the crew. Hopefully the onboard flight computers don't go rogue and leave. I hope the flight computer doesn't try and head back home without the crew, because that would be bad. Because this thing does not have a heat shield. It does not have enough. Actually, it might have enough delta V to get home. But it does not have a heat shield, so it probably wouldn't survive very well if you're re-entering from Minmus. But we are about to land. Our thrust to weight ratio isn't actually that great, because we have 6 ant engines, and I didn't really want thrust to weight ratio to be too high, because I don't know why. But we have landed and can collect science from the surface. Also, Valentina Kerman is the first Kerbal to walk on Minmus. But I forget his name already. Tombo Kerman can get out and reset the science experiments and do some more science. He does happen to glitch the landing legs and make it do a midair flip, which I was really hoping that the solar panels didn't break, and thankfully they didn't. Valentina can plant the flag, first flag on Minmus, and so far only flag, and Tomban can get out and do a bit of golf on Minmus, and which I think in real life, I forget which Apollo mission it was, but it might have been Apollo 12. I really could be wrong. I'm not the greatest at this. It was one of the Apollo missions. One of the astronauts actually brought along a golf club and a golf ball, and he tried to hit he tried to play golf on the moon. It didn't go very far because he had a spacesuit on, but our Kerbals don't have that problem, and it, probably broke the record for longest I don't know what you would call it, golf ball throw. You're not really throwing it, but you're, I mean, I don't know, but Tomban can, I keep on saying his name wrong. Tomball Kerman isn't the only one who can have fun, and Valentina also tries to play golf on Minmus, which actually doesn't end up getting us as much science because it isn't the experiment isn't biome specific, which is strange because most experiments are when you're landed. But oh well. We're still getting a bunch of science from this by biome hopping to different biomes, because that's what biome hopping means. Not much to talk about. We're just landing as we have 2 times before. Once again, this is actually I've never said this before. This isn't realistic at all, because in real life Apollo missions wouldn't be just hopping across the surface of the moon, trying to get as much readings from every region of the moon as they could. They were limited to a small portion of the moon, and yeah, they're limited to a small portion of the moon, but they also sent multiple missions. But we don't do that here because this is a low gravity world. It doesn't take much delta V to go anywhere, and yeah, we have the fuel margin to hop across the surface. We actually get a lot of the biomes. We get I think lowlands, midlands, highlands, slopes, and flats. So we get 5 different biomes from this one single mission, which lands us an absolutely insane amount of science points, which you will see once the mission ends. Actually, I'm not sure if I included that in this video. I might have. I could just like. Actually, I did include that in this episode. I was actually trying to find a green sandstone because we have a contract to bring a green sandstone back to Kerbin. Yeah, I couldn't find any, so we're gonna have to come back at a later date and try to find a green sandstone, because somebody's paying us like 100,000 funds to do so. You know, that's a fair amount of money right there. You're now hopping to our final biome, which is the highlands, because it is high above sea level. I'm pretty sure that's in the name. Once again, not too much to talk about here. We're just doing the same thing as we have many times before. Actually, we've only done this like 5 times before. Yeah. But we have, I thought this time it would be good to head back into orbit because our fuel was starting to drain a little bit faster than I would like, and we didn't really have any more biomes that we could have gone to. I mean, you probably could have gone to like the Great Flats or something, but or whatever biome we just passed over. But you know, we still get an insane amount of science from this mission, so I don't think that was the worst thing, because you know, we can always send a mission at a later date and finish up the remaining science missions. We're now just trying to get back to the sort of mothership, I think I'm gonna call it, because that's what it is. It's a large craft that deploys a smaller craft. Although we will be constructing much bigger motherships in the future, because yeah, we really can't go interstellar with a craft that small. We're gonna need like huge 100-meter long crafts that have massive fusion drives and fusion reactors and lots of space for the crew to like, so they don't go stir crazy in space. But we have docked these two spacecraft together. We can transfer the remaining fuel. Make sure there's no more science equipment in the lander, and deorbit the lander, because once again, we don't want to be causing Kessler syndrome. That would be bad. But we do have enough fuel to make it back. More than enough fuel. Takes 200 meters per second to get back. We have about 800 to 700 meters per second. We actually have like 750, but it is all gone now. Actually, the fuel isn't all gone. We actually have 550 meters per second left, which is good. Remember, it's always good to overbuild your craft rather than underbuild them, because you don't want to be stranding curls in orbit. But we can detach the two modules. See some nice fireworks as both of them start exploding from the re-entry effects, but we do not suffer the same fate because we have a heat shield which is constantly ablating away, because that's what an ablative heat shield does. It ablates away. It has small little things that can fall off, and so your main craft doesn't do the same thing, because that would be bad. That wouldn't be too good. But that will be the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.